3,200 years ago, the ancient Greeks from the Peloponnesus decided to have a battle with the city of Troy, located across the Aegean Sea over in Asia Minor, which is what we call Turkey today. This war is historically known as the Trojan War. Now, as all ancient wars go, there were lots of stories that came out of this, and some of the stories have been told over and over and become more grandiose over time. Well, 400 years after that war, a fellow by the name of Homer, an ancient Greek poet, collected the stories and put them together in an epic poem that he called the Iliad. The ancient Greek name for the city of Troy is Ilium. That's where we get the term Iliad. So this story that I'm about to tell you has been told for 3,000 years over and over and over. And so I'm just continuing the meme, or the meme-plex, I suppose. So today, I would like to continue the tradition of this very ancient meme and tell you the story of the Trojan War. So how do you start something like that? Well, perhaps this way. Many moons ago, back when the earth was old, but the stars were young, there was a wedding. The wedding was held at the palace of King Menelaus of Sparta. This is a wedding. The wedding was between King Peleus and the immortal goddess Thetis, and everybody was invited to this wedding. Everybody who was important. All the gods and goddesses, all the kings and queens, all the princes and princesses. Everybody who was anybody went to this wedding. And it was a grand affair. And it went off without a hitch. The perfect wedding. And after the ceremony, they adjourned to the complex, the gymnasium, the annex, back behind the palace, for the reception. So there was the all-you-can-eat shrimp bar. There's the loud rock and roll music going on. There was the chips and salsa over here. There were the tables spread out. People were dancing. It was a wedding. And they all lived happily ever after. Thank you. Wait. This is a Greek story. If you know your Greek stories, that can't possibly be the end. See, when I said that everybody who was anybody was invited, that's not quite true. There was one goddess. There's one goddess who was not invited. Her name was Eris. She's the goddess of stress. Now think this all the way through. Do you want the goddess of stress at your wedding? If you've been married, if you've been to a wedding, you know that it's already a stressful occasion. Why in the world would you want more stress involved? She was not invited. But she showed up. She went to the gymnasium, hid behind a curtain perhaps, and thought to herself, how can I mess this up? She came up with a brilliant plan. She took a golden apple, much like this, a golden apple, and she wrote a note on it, and it said, "To the most beautiful." She took this golden apple and then rolled it out onto the dance floor. Well, the apple was kicked around on the dance floor for a little bit. Eventually somebody picked it up. And they looked at the note and it said, "To the most beautiful." And immediately that apple was taken by one of the goddesses. Athena. Athena was there. Athena, the goddess of wisdom. She plucked the apple out of that person's hand and said, "Oh, the apple, to the most beautiful. Clearly that's me. I am the most beautiful of the goddesses. Athena, the goddess of wisdom." And that apple was yanked out of her hand by Hera, the queen goddess, Zeus's wife. Hera grabbed that apple right out of Athena's hands and said, "Daughter, no, that is not for you. I am so much more attractive than you are. This is to the most beautiful. I mean, you're smart and everything, but beauty, not so much. I'm sorry, honey, but the apple belongs to me." And that apple was immediately snatched from her hand. Aphrodite, the goddess of love, took it from Hera's hand. Aphrodite took the apple and said, "Mom, this is to the most beautiful. Mom, with that outfit and those shoes, that is not you. Mom, please don't embarrass yourself. I am clearly the most beautiful goddess in the room. This apple belongs to me." And then Athena stole the apple, and then Hera stole the apple, and then Athena stole the apple, and pretty soon we had a girl fight on the dance floor. Not regular girls, but goddesses. There was some hair pulling and some teeth gnashing and some clothes rending, and it was bad. And at some point, Hera ended up on top of the dog pile with the apple, and she said, "Girls, stop. We need to come up with a plan here. We can't continue to fight each other because it's just not seemly. Let's have somebody choose which one of the three of us is the most beautiful." So, who should begin? And Athena and Aphrodite, they argued amongst each other, and then Hera got involved, and eventually they decided that there's only one person. Zeus, the king of the gods. He should make the decision as to who is the most beautiful. Zeus, honey, could you come over here for a second? Zeus, yes, come over here for a second. Zeus came over from the all-you-can-eat shrimp bar with a plate of shrimp. "Yes, what can I do for you, ladies?" "Zeus, could you take this apple and could you perhaps, read the note and then give it to the owner?" Zeus said, "Sure, no problem." He took the apple. He read the note, "To the most beautiful." Zeus looked up. He saw his two daughters and his wife, and they were all looking at him, expecting the apple to go to themselves. And Zeus knew that he was in trouble. Oh man, was he in trouble. Athena came up and said, Dad, I can wax your chariot or something. Just pick me, Dad." And Aphrodite said, "Dad, please, no, I can help you with your outfits because you do not pull this off well, Dad." And Hera said, Honey, you know how much you like spaghetti with extra meat sauce. If you choose me, I can hook you up with it. Come on now." And Zeus said, "Ladies, okay, I got it." In the history of Greek mythology, Zeus very rarely makes good decisions. Very rarely does he make good decisions. But in this one instance, he makes perhaps his best call. He said, "This apple belongs to, excuse me, ladies, I think I had some bad shrimp." And he ran to the restroom. He's not dumb. Zeus ran into the restroom, sat the apple on the sink, looking in the mirror saying, "What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because if I pick one of the girls, the other two of the goddesses, they're going to be upset with me. This is bad. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" There was a flush, and Prince Paris from the city of Troy came out of the stall, came up and started washing his hands. And Zeus came up with a brilliantly evil plan. "Prince Paris, my boy, how you doing?" "Oh, Zeus, wow, I'm doing great. How are you doing? I mean, you're Zeus. Of course you're doing great, I'm sure." "Prince Paris, my boy, I need you to do me a favor." "Oh, anything. You're Zeus. Literally, anything you ask, I will do it to the best of my ability. Anything. Please, just ask me." "Prince Paris, I need you to take this apple. I need you to give it to the owner of the apple. The identity of the owner is on the piece of paper. Just take it, go outside. You will know who to give it to." Prince Paris said, "Oh, sure, no problem. Hey, Zeus, why are you going out the window?" Prince Paris dries his hands, takes the apple, goes out the door. He goes out into the gym, and there's the circle of people and the three goddesses standing there, tapping their feet, waiting for Zeus. Hera, the queen goddess, says, Prince Paris, where is Zeus? Prince Paris says, well, and he looks down and he sees the note, to the most beautiful. And he looks up, and he looks down, and then he realizes he's been had. Zeus has tricked him. Zeus didn't want to make the decision. Now Prince Paris must make the decision. And Prince Paris understands this is not good. But he made a commitment to Zeus. So he told the ladies, ladies, I'm sorry Zeus had to leave, but I will choose who is the most beautiful. So, if you three will, okay, that's good. If you twirl around, okay, okay, that's good. I like that, okay. And, okay, well, I made my decision. The most beautiful, well, is, and Athena said, no, wait a second. Prince Paris, see me for a second. Prince Paris, hi, I'm Athena, goddess of wisdom, but what a lot of people don't know is that I'm also the goddess of war. Hey, Prince Paris, here's the situation. If you choose me as the most beautiful, I can make it sure that you win every single battle you'll ever be in. You will never lose. I'm the goddess of war. I can make that happen. What do you think? Prince Paris said, oh, yeah, I'm totally choosing you. Yes, absolutely. Go get back in line. Get back in line. All right, well, the most beautiful is clearly, and Hera said, no, wait a second. Prince Paris, I need to talk to you for a second. Prince Paris, hi. Queen Goddess, Hera, right. So Prince Paris of Troy, King Paris of Troy, King Paris of the Aegean Sea, King Paris of the world. How's that sound? I'm the Queen Goddess. I can make that happen. Just choose me as the most beautiful. Oh, I'm totally choosing you. Well, clearly, the most beautiful goddess is, and Aphrodite said, oh, well, wait a second. I need to talk to you for a second, Paris. Paris, hello. Aphrodite, goddess of love. If you choose me as the most beautiful, I will hook you up. Listen to me. You can choose from anybody in the room, and I will hook you up. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Wait, I can pick anybody that I want, and they'll go out with me? Anybody? Anybody. Choose me. Prince Paris says, okay, well, I have made my final decision. The most beautiful goddess in the room here is clearly Aphrodite, the goddess of love. And Aphrodite says, yes, thank you. She took the apple, did the princess wave. Thank you. It's been wonderful. I am the most beautiful. Athena and Hera both went, well, we never, and poof, they were gone. Aphrodite got in front of the crowd and continued to talk about how beautiful she was. And well, Prince Paris came up to her and said, excuse me, Aphrodite, yes, excuse me, we made a deal, how, I would pick you and then you would hook me up, and cool, are we good with that? Are we still doing that? Yes, choose whoever you'd like. No, seriously, like anybody in the room? Okay, well, how about, you said anybody, how about her over there? Yeah, over here. Okay, Helen, come here, please. Yes, thank you. Helen, I'd like you to meet Prince Paris of Troy. Oh, nice to meet you, Prince Paris. Nice to meet you. Yes, Helen, Prince Paris would like to go on a date with you. Oh, I don't think that's, no, Prince Paris would like to go on a date with you. Oh, okay. Okay. And Prince Paris and Helen went out the back door, down the hill, across the fields, got onto the dock, onto a ship, and sailed to Troy. The perfect love story. And they all lived happily ever after. No, wait, I did that before. That's not how this ends. About an hour later, in the gymnasium, here comes King Menelaus. Now remember King Menelaus, he's the king of Sparta. This is his palace, this is his gymnasium. King Menelaus, as the host, he has to constantly make sure everything's fine. You know, he's got to keep he comes in and he says, who ate all this shrimp? Why is it, we need more salsa. Why are the ice sculptures melting? Who's in charge of we need more trash cans. What is going on here? You know what, you servants, you're not getting it together. This is embarrassing. You're embarrassing the king of Sparta. Hey, has anybody seen my wife? Guys, have you seen my wife? She's in charge of some of this. Guys, have you seen my wife? You know, Helen. One of the servants came up to King Menelaus and said, hey, boss, yeah, I think your wife went off with Prince Paris of Troy. They were talking about going to Troy. Menelaus said, no, Queen Helen would never do anything like that. I'll go find out. So he went out the back door, down the hill, across the fields to the dock. And the dockmaster said, yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. But she got on the boat and they left. And King Menelaus said, my wife, she's been kidnapped. I'm going to kill him. He ran back across the fields, up the hill, into the back door, went into the gym, and he said, who here is going to help me get my wife back? And he started to scream. Now, King Menelaus, the king of Sparta, his older brother, King Agamemnon, came up to little brother, King Menelaus, and said, hey, little brother, whoa, calm down. I've already heard what's going on, so let's do this. They already have a lead on us. We're not going to catch them. And the city of Troy is a pretty big city, so here's what we're going to do. Give me a couple of days. We'll get some of my boys together. We'll go over en masse, and then we'll show up, we'll flex our muscles, and we'll get her back. Don't stress about it. Give me 3 days. 3 days. Menelaus says, oh, thank you, older brother. Thank you so much. Okay, 3 days. I'll meet you down there at the dock. And 3 days later, King Menelaus walked down the hill across the fields to the dock, and he looked out onto the water, and there were 1,000 ships. 1,000 ships. Agamemnon, his older brother, came up and said, hey, young brother, I'm sorry, man. This is all I could get. I could only get 1,000 ships full of soldiers. I'm sorry. You think this is going to be enough? And Menelaus was like, I was expecting 10 guys. 1,000 ships, yeah, this is going to be great. So, come on, let's go get in the boat. Let's go get her. Let's go get my wife. King Agamemnon said, now wait a second. You know how this works. We can't go anywhere across the sea unless we have our fortunes told. So, good thing I brought Nestor with me. Nestor the fortune teller, the prognosticator. Nestor, come here for a second. Great. Hey, Nestor, we need you to do our fortune. If you could tell us, if you could prophesy, how long will it take? Are we going to be successful getting Helen back? And old Nestor said, well, let's look for a sign. And everybody looked. They looked around. And Nestor pointed out, oh, there it is over there. And on a tree, there was a large branch that had a bird's nest in it. A big snake crawled up the trunk and out onto the branch. It then began to eat the baby birds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 baby birds. And then the mama bird swooped in, pecked the snake on the head. Killing the snake, it dropped to the ground. And Nestor said, "Well, it's obvious." King Menelaus said to Nestor, "Hey, for those of us who didn't take prophesy class, could you maybe explain what that meant?" Well, the baby birds represent the year. We are going to go over there, and it will take 9 years of fighting. But on the 10th year, we will be successful, and we will get your wife back. 10 years. Menelaus said, "Okay. All right, let's go get her. Let's go get her." Well, older brother Agamemnon, King Agamemnon, said, "Now wait a second. I told my wife this would only be a couple of weeks. I mean, she gave me a list of, milk and bread to pick up on the way back. 10 years? Come on, man. 10 years? But I love her. I love my wife. Please, please." "Okay, little brother. I'm sure my wife will be fine with it. Let's go." And they got on the ships and they set sail. Now there are a lot of famous people on these boats going over to the city of Troy. Some of them you may have heard. A guy by the name of Hercules. Yeah, he went with them. A guy by the name of Odysseus, Diomedes. Some girls too. Atlanta was one who went. But if we have to stop and say who is the most famous of the warriors to go over to fight at the city of Troy, well, there's no doubt. His name was Achilles. Now Achilles is a very special warrior. You see, his dad was Zeus. He's half of a god. Zeus was his dad. Achilles, when he was 1 day old, just 1 day, his mom did something very strange. She took the little baby, 1 day old baby, down into the underworld where you have the river Styx. Well, there's a reason that there's the famous canoe guy who paddles you across the river Styx. There's a reason he's there, because you can't swim across the river. You can't touch the river. If you touch the river, 2 things will happen to you. 1, if any part of you touches the river, you will immediately lose all of your memory. All of it. Gone. Tabula rasa. Gone. The second part is kind of interesting as well. Whatever part of your skin that touches the river, touches the water, well, that part can no longer be hurt by mortal weapons. So if you were to stick your thumb into the water, of course, well, you would forget what you were doing because your mind would be erased. But if you were to stick your thumb into the water and somebody were to take an axe and try to chop your thumb off, they couldn't be able to do that. They would break their axe. Your thumb could not be hurt by mortal weapons. Achilles' mom, when he was 1 day old, his mom took baby Achilles halfway across the river Styx in the canoe and picked him up upside down, held him by his heel, in fact, and dipped him into the water as far as he would go. Held him by his heel. She didn't dip him all the way into the water, because if she had touched the water with her fingers, well, she would have forgotten that she was holding a baby, and the baby would have drowned. So she was very careful to keep her fingers out of the water. But the rest of the baby was immersed. And you think to yourself, wait! The baby's memories, they're all gone. Well, yes, but he was 1 day old. Didn't hurt him too much. But the second thing is, Achilles, baby Achilles, can now not be hurt by mortal weapons. 18 years later, Achilles, the teenager, went on the boats to go fight the city of Troy. Now, let's get back to Helen. Prince Paris and Helen got on the ship, they went across the Aegean Sea, they got off the boat, they went up the hill, and there's the city of Troy. They went into the city of Troy, into the palace where Prince Paris' dad, King Priam, lived. They went up to the throne where King Priam sat and Prince Paris said, "Hey Dad, I'd like you to meet my girlfriend, Helen." Prince Priam said, "Well, it's very nice to meet you, Helen. You are a very beautiful girl. So where did you guys meet?" And Prince Paris said, "Well, we met at King Menelaus' palace over there in Sparta." Now, standing next to the throne of King Priam was Prince Paris' older brother. His name is Hector, Prince Hector. Hector's a big guy. And when I say a big guy, he's like a tank. Just muscles upon muscles. Older brother Hector said to younger brother Prince Paris, "Hey, Prince Paris, you said, that's funny, you said that her name was Helen. Is she related to the Helen that's the queen of Sparta? Because it's funny that they have the same name and they came from the same place. It's just funny that way." And Prince Paris says, "Oh, no, I know better than to take the queen of Sparta." And Helen turned to Prince Paris and said, "But I am the queen of Sparta. I'm married to King Menelaus." Prince Paris said, you didn't, wait, you're married to the king of Sparta?" And Helen said, "Yes, but I want to date you." Hector, the older brother, said, "What is going on? You kidnapped the queen of Sparta? What is going on?" Enter Cassandra. Cassandra, the little sister. Cassandra is a fortune teller. Unfortunately for Cassandra, she's been cursed by the gods. Her curse is twofold. One, her curse is that every fortune that she ever tells is 100% correct. She always knows the future, and it always comes true. But here's the second part, which is the curse. Nobody will ever believe her. Nobody ever believes her prophecies. Cassandra can tell somebody's fortune by touching them. So when Cassandra came in and said, "Hey, older brother Prince Paris is here, and is this his girlfriend? Great, nice to meet you. Hi, is Helen? Okay, give me a hug." They hugged, and Cassandra saw the future. She stepped back and screamed, "Eek! We're all going to die! We're all going to die! We're all going to die!" Hector, the older brother, said, "Cassandra, come on now. Stop it. Stop it. Helen, ignore her. Helen, seriously, we got a problem here." Prince Paris said, "Older brother, I love her. I love her. Help me." Hector turned to King Priam and said, "Well, Dad, what do you want to do?" And King Priam said, "Well, I guess it's love. It's love." So Hector said, "Okay, little brother, if they come looking for her, I'll help you out. I'll man the city walls. You're welcome." When the Greeks King Menelaus, King Agamemnon, and Achilles, when they showed up, they got out of their boats, they went up onto the beach, they looked up at the hill, and there's the city of Troy. Now here's something we need to know about Troy. Troy has a wall around it. This wall was not small. It was very large, very thick. In fact, so large and so thick that it was not actually made by humans. It was made by Poseidon, the god of the sea, Poseidon. Well, Poseidon is also the god of earthquakes. So he made walls so strong and so big that they could survive even the greatest of the earthquakes. The walls of Poseidon. When the Greeks showed up and looked up at the Trojan walls, they went, "Oh, now we understand why Nestor said 10 years. Okay. Now, for 9 years, for the next 9 years. Now, there are a lot of different battle scenes we could talk about, and a lot of different stories that come out of those 9 years. Let's see. Hercules got upset with the sun one day and tried to shoot it with a bow and arrow. Some people got dressed up as females and tried to sneak past the walls. There's all sorts of stories that we could talk about. But ultimately it came down to this. 9 years and nobody could get past the walls. That's what we need to take from that. And on the 10th year, something happened. So now we have 28-year-old Achilles. 28-year-old Achilles, who, when he would go out onto the battlefield, he would wear solid gold armor from his toes all the way up to the crown of his head, with a faceplate that came down over his face. Everybody knew it was Achilles because nobody in their right mind would wear gold as armor. Gold is very soft, it's malleable. Swords go right through it. It's awful to wear as armor. But Achilles could wear it because, if you recall, he could not be hurt by a normal weapon. So if a sword did go through his armor, it would just stop at his chest, and the sword would break. People could see Achilles from miles away with his golden armor. One day Achilles was out there, and there was a caravan of slaves that came through, and he saw that one of the girls on there was reasonably attractive. So he captured her. Her name was Briseis. He captured her and he took her back to his tent, and he said, "Hey, spoils of war, you are now my girlfriend." Well, later that afternoon, King Agamemnon, the older brother, King Agamemnon, who's the general of the army, King Agamemnon comes to Achilles' tent and he says, "Achilles, hey, my war council, we're getting together this afternoon, and whoa, who is that? She's gorgeous." And Achilles says, "Well, she's a slave girl I picked up. Her name is Briseis, and so, you know, we're kind of hanging out. She's mine. She's my woman." And Agamemnon says, "Great, wow, she's very cute. Tell you what, I would like her." And Achilles said, "But no, she's my woman. I captured her in the battle. She's mine." And Agamemnon said, "Oh no, right? Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but no, I'm the general, so." Whatever you have as the soldier is actually theoretically mine, so I'll just go ahead and take her, thanks. And Achilles said, "No, what? Wait. Can you not read my name tag? It says Achilles, best soldier in your army. I don't, no. You do not get her." And Agamemnon said, "Now wait, if we're talking about who's wearing what name tag, mine says general of the army. That girl is mine if I want her." "Fine, if you take her, I'm not going to fight for you. Fine, I don't need you. Well, fine. And Agamemnon took Briseis to his tent. I started the story mentioning Homer, the guy who's famous for telling the story. Now here's something you need to know about this. Everything that I have said up to this point is background to the story of the Iliad. The Iliad starts here, where I'm about to go in the story. And you say, but wait, the golden apple and the wedding and Achilles being dipped and the fortune telling, all of that, that's not in the Iliad? That's right, it's not in the Iliad. Because when Homer told his tale, he assumed that his audience knew all of that I had just said. He assumed that his audience knew those stories. So, here is the beginning of the Iliad. Rosy-fingered dawn came up over the horizon and shone her bright beams across the battlefield. Achilles sat in his tent, crying. The greatest warrior of all time, crying. Now, why was he crying? Because his woman had been taken from him by King Agamemnon. Crying. King Agamemnon and his war council met later that afternoon and were coming up with plans. You see, over the past 9 years, they would approach the walls. They would try to get over the walls. They'd try to dig under the walls. They'd try to go through the walls, but they could never get through them. So they kept coming up with more and more plans that never worked. Occasionally, the Trojans, who were just bored sitting behind the walls, they would open up the gate and they would come through the gate and they would fight out on the battlefield just for funsies. But then they would go, after they were done, they'd go back inside and shut the gate again. There was nothing the Greeks could do about the Trojans. What to do? What to do? Agamemnon's war council came up with a plan. They said, how about this? We keep on doing what we're doing because this is year 10. And maybe Nestor was right. The next day out on the battlefield when the Trojans came out, Hector was leading them. If you recall, Hector's the older brother of Prince Paris. Hector, the tank. None of the Greeks ever wanted to fight Hector because Hector was, he was just a machine out there. He and Achilles never really met each other on the battlefield because that would be an interesting fight. But they never met. Hector had a mouth on him. He liked to talk about people's mamas. Your mama is so ugly that, your mama is so dumb that. But as soon as somebody would approach him and try to silence him, he would kill them because Hector was a warrior. So on the Greek side, they had a big dog over there. His name was Ajax. Big Ajax. Big Ajax was sick of Hector's talking smack, and so he decided to fight Hector one-on-one. So that day on the battlefield, they formed a fight circle. You know what I'm talking about, where everybody forms the circle and they start going, fight, 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 fight. Ajax and Hector were in the middle, and somebody said, let's get it on. And they began to beat on each other with their swords and their spears and their shields and their armor. And for 15 minutes, both sides of the circle cheered and hissed. And for 30 minutes and for an hour and for 2 hours, these guys are still beating on each other. And for 4 hours. And on the 4th hour, the fight circle, which had started off going fight, 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 on the 4th hour, they were like, fight, Fight. Hey, can we break for lunch? Come on. At that point, Hector and Ajax, they had been smacking on each other for 4 hours, and they were kind of like two heavyweights leaning on each other. You know how they do that about the 5th or 6th round? They're just leaning on each other and barely hitting each other. Well, that's what they were doing. And at some point, Ajax said, "Hey, Hector, man, I'm tired." And Hector said, "I'm kind of tired too, but this is embarrassing that one of us can't kill the other one. What are we going to do?" And Ajax said, "Hector, did you hear the guy shout for lunch? How about we call this, maybe a timeout, and we can have lunch, maybe?" And Hector said, "Okay, I'm kind of hungry too." So they separated, and they called timeout. And they sat down on the ground. And the fight circle sat down on the ground. And they ordered takeout Chinese or Subway or, I don't know, Taco Bell, something. And so they all ate grilled cheese sandwiches, probably. Everybody eating together. Back during the Trojan War, there's a concept of honor. You don't kill somebody when they're on the ground. You don't, if somebody drops their sword, you let them pick it back up. You kill them honorably. If it's a timeout, it's a timeout. And so there's Hector and Ajax, who've been trying to kill each other for the past 4 hours, and they're sitting there sharing their potato salad with one another. And Ajax turns to Hector and says, "Hey man, you remember about 2 hours ago when I almost stabbed you in the eye?" And it was like, we were so close. And Hector's like, "Oh yeah, dude, that was pretty wild, because I thought like, oh." And Hector's like, "Oh hey, you remember Ajax when you tripped over your shoelaces?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to stab you." And no, I'll let you get up. And that was funny, right? And Ajax was like, "Oh yeah, whew, that was pretty crazy. So hey, how about this? Let's call it a draw." And Hector said, "Yeah, let's call it a draw." And that was the end of that day. The war council of King Agamemnon met that night and said, "Hey, that went actually pretty well because Ajax didn't die. But now we have an idea. What if," and we're just floating this out there, "what if King Menelaus, the husband of Helen, fights Prince Paris, the kidnapper of Helen? What if they fight one-on-one, winner gets Helen, and then we all go home? Why have we not thought of this before?" Menelaus is like, "Oh yeah, let's do it." So they sent an emissary, they sent a runner. The runner came back and said, "Hey, Paris is agreeable, let's do it." So the fight circle formed. And in the center you had Prince Paris and King Menelaus. And if you were putting money on this event, well, you would put the money on Menelaus. He was a slightly older guy, but much buffer, better armor, clearly the better warrior. Prince Paris, this kid, nobody's going to put money on him. Everybody kind of knew how this was going to go. And sure enough, when somebody said fight, yeah, it was clear. Menelaus is going to kill this guy. Prince Paris started running around in the circle, and Menelaus is chasing him. And it wasn't close. And at some point, Menelaus knocked Paris to the ground. And like I said before, the rule is if somebody's on the ground, you don't stab them. That's untoward. That's not honorable. But King Menelaus, that was his wife that Paris had kidnapped. Why not stab him on the ground? So he took the sword, and Paris disappeared. Like literally, poof, disappeared. Gone. That doesn't usually happen on battlefields. Oh, but it does happen if the goddess that you chose as the most beautiful if she happened to be watching the battle and she saw that you were about to lose, she would save your life. And sure enough, Aphrodite had come down and made Paris disappear. She cheated. The game was over. She cheated. That night at the war council, Menelaus was pulling his hair and gnashing his teeth and ranting and raving about how Aphrodite cheated and it wasn't fair. What to do, what to do, what to do. It's not fair when the gods get involved. Well, the next morning they went back to battle. Everybody on the Trojans, everybody on the Greeks, they're all trying to kill each other. Oh, here are two warriors, and this is a fun fight. Two warriors. Aeneas, from the Trojan side, whose mother happened to be Aphrodite. And Diomedes, from the Greek side. Now Diomedes, I need to tell you a little bit about him. Diomedes was clinically insane. Diomedes wore t-shirts out there. He didn't wear armor. He just wore t-shirts. He had two swords. He didn't use shields. He just had two swords. And he'd go out there and he would just strike at people as fast as he could. His fighting style was so different that nobody knew how to fight him. People were afraid of Diomedes. He was crazy. Well, at some point on that third day of the Iliad here, Aeneas and Diomedes squared off. And as soon as they squared off, these two warriors, it attracted attention. And everybody else quit fighting, and they watched these two. And Aeneas and Diomedes fought. Aeneas is a gifted warrior. Wow, he is amazing. But Diomedes is insane. And when you have giftedness versus insanity, well, they're two sides of the same coin, right? And the fight was pretty radical. The two of them beating on each other. The crowds cheering and hissing and booing and cheering and at some point, Diomedes disarms Aeneas. And just as about the time that Diomedes kills Aeneas, poof, Aeneas is gone. Wait, we've heard this story before. Diomedes looks around at the crowd and says, wait, what just happened? I was about to kill him. Oh, you know what? I bet his mama Aphrodite, probably took, you know what? His mama is so ugly that, and poof, Aphrodite shows up and said, little Diomedes, first of all, I'm not ugly. I was given the golden apple. Second of all, we don't talk, no. In fact, you better stop. And Diomedes the insane took his sword and jabbed it into her hand. She looked at her hand and a little bit of god blood came out and she, poof, she's gone. Diomedes looked at the crowd. Did you guys see that? I just took out a god. That's right. That's right. I made a god bleed. Woo! 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 I made a god bleed. And poof! Aphrodite's brother showed up. Ares, the god of war. Very large individual. He's a sword longer than Diomedes is tall. And when Ares asked the crowd, hey, who here hurt my sister Aphrodite? Everybody, both Greek and Trojan, everybody pointed at Diomedes. And Diomedes went right up to Ares and said, "What are you going to do about it?" The god of war took out his long sword and said, "Hey, little bug, I'm going to give you two options. Option one, I'm going to slice you in half this way across your middle. Option two, I'm going to slice you in half this way, straight up and down. What would you prefer?" Diomedes looked up at Ares and said, "Actually, I'd like to do it this way because I think that'd be cool." The whole crowd was like, what are you doing? You can't fight the god of war. You can't, Diomedes, you're going to die. Ares took his sword and lifted it over his head. Are you going to run? Are you going to run, little bug? Are you going to run? Diomedes said, "No. No." "Okay. I'm going to cut you in half." "Okay." Ares took his sword and he brought it down. At the very last nanosecond, Athena, the goddess of war, snatched Diomedes out of the way. Athena turned to Diomedes and said, What were you thinking?" Diomedes said, "No, I got it. I was going to catch the sword. I was going to catch the sword." Athena said, "You're an idiot. Let's get out of here." And poof, they were gone. That really irritated Ares. That night, Agamemnon's war council, they sat around and they talked, and what can we do? Odysseus, one of the chiefs, Odysseus, the criminal mastermind, Odysseus said, "King Agamemnon, you know what we have to do. We have to go get Achilles. We have to go get him. Without him, we cannot win this." Agamemnon said, "Okay, well, go to his tent, offer him whatever he wants, except for the girl." Odysseus said, "But no, that's what he's going to want. So maybe we can negotiate." "No, he can have whatever he wants if he'll come back, but he can't have the girl. I've made my decision." So Odysseus and Hercules and Ajax and Achilles' best friend, his cousin Patroclus, the four of them, they go over to the tent. And they go inside the tent, and Achilles is sitting there, and he's still crying. And they said, "Achilles, man, we need you back. They're killing us out there. I mean, actually, literally killing us out there. We need you back because you are the best. Come on, man. Come on. And Achilles said, "Okay, yeah, I would love to get back out there because, frankly, y'all need me. I know that. So, you know what I want? I want the girl back." Now, Odysseus said, "But here's the situation. You literally, King Agamemnon will give you the keys to the city. He will make you the head general of whatever. You can do whatever you want, man. But you can't have the girl." And Achilles said, "Okay, well, it's been fun talking. Bye." Bye. The four left the tent. But then Patroclus, the cousin, the best friend of Achilles, he said, "Guys, wait up. Never mind. Let me talk to Achilles. Maybe I can talk some sense into it." Patroclus went back into the tent by himself with Achilles, and Patroclus said, "Hey, Achilles, come on, man. It's just a girl. There's lots of girls. Come on. We really need you. Come on." Achilles said, "It's not the point. I'm not going out there until he gives her back to me. Patroclus looked around the tent and he said, but what if... Wait, I have a plan. And the next morning, sure enough, as the sun was coming up and the soldiers were coming out of the battlefield, Achilles comes out of his tent, dressed in his gold armor. From his toes to the crown, all in gold, the faceplate down, gold, gold, gold. The Greeks cheered, the Trojans groaned. Achilles was back. Achilles came out onto the battlefield. The Greeks parted. The Trojans parted. Achilles came out and said, all right, taking a couple days off. I'm well rested. Who wants to die first? Well, at this point, Hector, the tank, Hector of the Trojans, Prince Hector, he said, you know what? I'll fight you, Achilles. I'll fight you. I know that I can't beat you, but I'm not scared of you. I'll fight you, Achilles. So let's do it. Okay. So this is Achilles, who cannot be hurt by mortal weapons, versus Hector, the tank, who cannot be hurt because he's a tank. And the two of them square off, and the fight circle is the biggest fight circle of all time, and everybody's cheering. And when the blows come, the blows are ringing for miles away. Hector smashes on the shield. Achilles smashes on the shield. Man, it was a fight I would wish that I could see personally. It was amazing. The two best warriors on each side. And Achilles, at one point, falls down, trips over a rock, falls on his back, and he's laying there. And Hector comes up and says, hey, Achilles, you a little winded because this is embarrassing that you're laying down there on the ground. And hey, while I'm at it, let me go ahead and stab you through the heart. And everybody laughs because they know when Hector takes the spear and jabs it into the chest of Achilles, he's just going to break off the spear point. So everybody laughs. And Hector's like, I've got extra spears, whatever. And he jabs the spear into Achilles' chest. And it goes through into the heart and kills him. But that can't happen. Achilles cannot be hurt. That can't happen. Hector stepped back from the body and he looked at the crowd who were all quiet. He went back up to the body and he kind of, hey, get up. Get up. I know you're not dead. I can't kill you. Get up. Achilles, are you really dead? Hey, did you guys see me? Did you guys see me kill him? Wait. Did you guys see me kill Achilles? Did you see me kill? Take the picture. That's what I'm talking about. I killed the unkillable. In fact, let me look at his face. And pulls the visor up. It's not Achilles. It's not Achilles. It's Patroclus, Achilles' best friend. Patroclus, who was wearing Achilles' armor. Well, that's not good. Hector looked across the battlefield, and sure enough, standing outside the tent was Achilles. Achilles was wearing shorts and flip-flops, and he walked slowly across the battlefield, the real Achilles, slowly up to Patroclus' body. Achilles kneels down, picks Patroclus' head up and holds him, hugs him, and says, "Patroclus, I can't believe you took my armor. This was such a stupid idea. I can't believe you did that. This is my best friend. Why?" He laid the body back down, and Achilles stood up in his shorts and his flip-flops, and he turned to the crowd and he said, "Who killed my best friend?" And everybody pointed to Hector. And Hector was like, whoa, hey Achilles, whoa, I'm sorry, I thought that was you, dude. Had I known that was your best friend, no, I was kind of an accident. We were playing around and then it went through his heart. No, I'm sorry. Achilles said, "I'll be with you in a second, Hector." And he walked over to Agamemnon. And he looked Agamemnon straight in the eye and he said, "King Agamemnon, give me Briseis back." King Agamemnon said, "Okay, you can have her. Absolutely, you can have her." Achilles walked over to Hector and said, "Hector, I'm going to bury my best friend tonight. Tomorrow morning I'm going to kill you. Be ready." And Hector said, "I know." And the next morning, Achilles walked out in shorts and a t-shirt and a spear. And Hector came out of the gates of Troy wearing armor on top of his armor with several spears, big swords, big shields, anything he could carry. The two of them met on the battlefield. The big fight circle formed, and Achilles said, "Hey, you want to go first?" And Hector said, yes, please, give me a chance." Hector took his sharpest spear. He backed up several steps, and when he was ready, he did his hop, hop, hop throw. He's a big dude. He can throw hard. That spear would go through 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 regular people before it even began to slow down. And that spear hit Achilles smack in the middle of the forehead. And the whole crowd went, "Ooh!" The spear bounced off, and Achilles took his finger and rubbed his forehead and said, "That tickled. My turn." And he threw his spear. And the short version is it went through Hector's throat. Game over. Achilles took Hector's body, tied a rope around his legs, around his feet, tied it to a chariot, and dragged Hector's body around the city several times. King Priam, the king of Troy, up on top of the walls, saying, "Please, please, please, please don't. No, we need to have a burial for my son. Please don't." And Achilles looked up and said, "You're next, dude." That night, they had a burial for Hector. And if you are reading the Iliad, the story that I'm telling, if you are reading this story, the story is now over. That is the end of the story. Because Homer believed that his audience knew the ending. He didn't have to say the ending. Everybody knows the ending. But just in case you don't know the ending, here it is. The next day, Achilles was out there on the battlefield shouting up the walls. Prince Paris was at the top of the wall with a bow and arrow. He was a very accomplished archer. And so he was shooting Achilles with arrows. And they were plinking off his forehead, plinking off his nose, plinking off his eyeball. And Achilles was like, "Stop it, you're wasting arrows. You cannot hurt me, stop it." Prince Paris kept shooting arrows, There was no point. Achilles says, "You know, when you run out of arrows, I'm coming for you." Prince Paris came down to his last arrow. He was about to shoot it and realized, no point. So he unloaded it. And poof! Apollo, god of the sun, showed up right next to Prince Paris on top of the walls. Apollo, the god of the sun, also the god of medicine, and interestingly enough, the god of archery. Apollo says, "You know what? I'm sick of this stupid war. Let's end it. Shoot the arrow." "Yeah, but Apollo, if I shoot the arrow, it's just going to bounce off his ear hole or something. There's no point in me shooting the arrow." "Paris, shoot the arrow." Okay. So Prince Paris shot the arrow. And the arrow went straight towards Achilles. Now, Apollo did some of his archery magic and caused that arrow to bend in the air. And so it went wide of Achilles. And Achilles laughed and said, "Dude, you didn't even hit me with your last arrow. That's just embarrassing." But as he was talking, the arrow curved back around and it hit Achilles. It hit him in his heel. It hit him in his heel. Achilles looked down at the arrow and said, "Well, that's just the stupidest place to get hit." And Achilles fell over and died. If that took you by surprise, you need to rewind this and go back at about an hour. You don't want to get hit in your Achilles heel. Well, they buried Achilles that afternoon. And that night, the war council met, and Agamemnon said, "Okay, well, here we are in our 10th year, and our best warrior is now dead. Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, what are we doing here?" And Odysseus said, "Boss, I've got a plan. It's a little outside the box, but I think it might work." A week later, the Trojans woke up, looked over the walls, and the Greek army was gone. No tents, no ships. The battlefield was cleared. They were gone. Now there was one non sequitur. There was a giant wooden horse on the battlefield, about 3 stories tall. A giant wooden horse. And one little bitty soldier, I guess, sitting on one of the big wheels. The Trojans opened the gates. They came out en masse. They went up to the soldier and said, "Where is everybody? We got some questions here. Where is everybody?" 1. 2, what's up with the giant horse? the soldier there, Laocoon, he said, well, here's the situation. You guys killed Achilles, we give up. We're done. You win, so we packed up last night and we're outie. So there you go. And the the Trojan soldier said, well, yeah, what about you? Laocoon said, well, yeah, I overslept and missed the last boat, so it's kind of embarrassing. You guys call me an Uber or something, maybe I can get back, I don't know. And they said, the Trojan said, oh, okay, we understand that, but what's up with the giant horse? I mean, because it's a giant wooden horse. Laocoon said, well, you know, we tried to break down the walls of Troy, and we couldn't, and so, you know, Poseidon, who's the king of the sea and king of earthquakes, and he's the one that built the wall, and so we thought we would make an offering for him because he's also the god of horses, and so we made this huge horse for sacrifice. And one of the Trojan warriors said, wait, that thing's big enough, there's probably people up inside that. Laocoon said, what, there's people up inside this? No. Oh, wow, yeah, that'd be really smart if we did that. Too bad we didn't think about that. Oh well. So anyway, the horse is y'all's. You can have it. It's been fun, thanks. The Trojans took the horse, wheeled it into the city, and closed the gates. And that night, there was a party. Lots of alcohol, lots of loud rock and roll music, lots of dancing, lots of people passing out. And about midnight, when everything was quiet, because everybody was drunk, about midnight, a trap door in the belly of the horse opened, and a rope came down, because yes, sure enough, there were people inside the giant wooden horse. And down the rope slid Menelaus and King Agamemnon and Nestor, the fortune teller, and crazy Diomedes and Odysseus, whose plan was to build a giant horse. And several of them went to the gate of the city, and they quietly opened it up. Standing on the outside of the gate, out on the battlefield, was the Greek army, who had been hiding around the corner. And they all quietly walked into the city. And that was the end of Troy, because the Greeks killed everyone. When Menelaus came into Prince Paris's bedroom in the palace and saw his wife laying there in bed, Menelaus took out his sword and he killed Prince Paris, stabbed him in the heart. As soon as Prince Paris died, Helen woke up and said, whoa, where am I? What am I doing here? Who is the dead guy bleeding out? King Menelaus said, honey, don't you know? I haven't seen you for 10 years. You're my wife. You're the queen of Sparta. And Helen says, I don't remember any of this. King Menelaus and Helen, along with Agamemnon and Odysseus, they left the palace. And as they were going down the steps of the palace, going out in the city of Troy was burning like the entire city of Troy was on fire. And Odysseus said, how in the world did this happen so fast? Diomedes, the insane, walked by with a book of matches and said, whoops. Everybody died. Well, except for one person. His name was Aeneas. We met him before. Aeneas well, that's a whole other story. The Greeks left the city of Troy, got onto their boats, and they set sail back to Sparta. Agamemnon, who said, oh man, I'm supposed to pick up bread and milk. I'm sure it's fine. Odysseus, well, his ship, it took a little longer to get back, and that's a whole other story as well. The end. Thank you guys for watching. It's been fun.